amount of calories. I mean, you're in good shape, but you're not withering away. So I imagine that you're roughly taking in enough calories to hit maintenance levels,
Right.
but only in a single meal a day. Do you eat like, because I think you eat in a 2-hour window?
I'm not strict about it. I have dinner, and occasionally I break down. I have a little bit of a snack in the afternoon, and occasionally
As needed, kind of.
occasionally I have lunch with friends. Occasionally I have breakfast. But my best days, I would say probably at least 5-6 days a week, are not eating maybe more than a nut, a few nuts or a nibble of chocolate until dinner. And then dinner is great. Dinner is a big meal for me.
How many calories in your dinner?
I don't know, but I go to a restaurant and I'm eating multiple dishes. I just don't eat dessert. I steal little bits, but that's it. I avoid sugar like it's the plague for the reason we just mentioned.
Okay, so you advise people to do prolonged fasting if they can. You don't personally, just because it sucks and it isn't fun, and you live your life at a very high level, and so it gets difficult, and I will second that. A 24-hour fast for me is pretty easy. Anything beyond that, my performance begins to decline. Certainly my levels of enjoyment begin to decline rapidly. I've done a 5-day fast, and after day 3, it's like being sick, for me, at least as I've done it. And I'm sure I could optimize and do it better, but I have found that trying to perform at the level that I perform at just has not been possible. Even at 3 days, halfway through day 2, I'm like, I am not as good as I would normally be. I don't have the patience for certain meetings that I might otherwise have. So I have a very similar response to fasting. But my average, when you take it over a week, because I'm slightly shorter on the weekends, my average is about 17 and a half hours a day, 365 days a year. Some days it's 14, and other days it's 22. So it just depends on the day. But it ends up, because I tracked it really religiously for a long time, it ends up, on average, all things taken into consideration, 17 and a half hours a day. Is there a sweet spot?
I'm similar. I think that's the sweet spot for you and me. There are sweet spots that are different for everybody. Some people like breakfast and don't care for dinner. But you want to be able to...
I'm actually more like that. My last meal is at 1:15 p.m.
Oh, wow, okay. But what you've got now is after lunch, you go all through the night.
Yeah.
You've got that extended period. You want to use the night as a period of fasting because you're not thinking about food when you're sleeping anyway. But also, I'm wondering if you see this too, or feel this. For a few weeks when I started doing this more intensely and actually skipping lunch, it was tough. It's tough for everybody, I think, because we've got ghrelin coming out, and we have to eat something. We're used to eating, but after 3-4 weeks, I didn't feel like eating. In fact, if I ate something, I'd get a little bit woozy or brain fog. And what I saw when I was measuring it, so I've done the levels health thing on my arm. So there's a glucose monitor, continuous glucose monitor on the phone, that when you start, your body doesn't know what to do. Hungry, you're losing glucose, you feel tired, you're hungry. But what happens over time, after 3 weeks, is you steady out, and your liver wakes up and learns that it needs to do its job, which is in part making sugar for your body, glucose. But our livers are much smarter than our eyes and our mouths, much. And continuous. Your liver, my liver, if you measure it during the day, I showed you a graph earlier when we were talking, the line through the day is really steady in this zone. And that's why I can power through the day. I don't feel over-energetic, I don't feel lethargic, I don't even feel hungry. But there's a really important point, which is it's individual. The other important point is that you need to get through the hard part in the beginning.
Yeah, I don't think people will believe you, nor will they really understand what it means to become metabolically flexible so that you can burn glucose or ketones. And when you do it, though, it changes your relationship to hunger. It's not that I don't know that I'm hungry. It's that it doesn't create any sense of urgency. I'm not distracted. I'm not like, oh my God, I have to eat. It's just, oh yeah, wow, I guess I haven't eaten in a long time. And no one will believe you until they've done it. And I remember when I first went low carb, and this wasn't even me quite going keto, but when I first went low carb, I had a headache. And I was so angry. And I remember saying to my wife, if I had a cookie, I would feel better. And that was true. It would have made me feel better. But on the other side of that was you finally break your metabolic dependency on sugar, and now you can burn either glucose or ketones, because I used to measure my ketones all the time. And I could predict with pretty high degree of accuracy when I was over 0.5, when I was around 1, or if I was north of 1. And because you feel differently. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. It's fun to do the glucose monitoring because you can look on your phone and you know how you feel. And I could very quickly see that if I ate normally, like a normal American, a big breakfast, huge spike in glucose goes up over 150, 200 mgs per deciliter. And I'm feeling wired and I've got caffeine in my body. So, okay, I got a couple of hours of hyper. And then I'd have this crash. I'd feel terrible. I need to go to sleep. I didn't sleep well enough. I can't think. I need to get a snack to get back to where I was. And then I look at my phone and I can see that I'm in this crash. I've gone not just, my levels are here. I've gone below that. And now I'm feeling hungry. I'm weak. And then what do? What does everybody do? I need a snack. I need a protein bar or something. And then shoot straight back up. Our days, if on a normal meal, a normal American diet is like that. And it's highs and lows and highs and lows. It's horrible.
Horrible.
You got to break that cycle and just do the and then a little bit in the evening. Food is required. We're not talking about starvation or malnutrition here.
Right.
But Tom, the one thing that I think is really important to tell everybody who isn't doing this is that I'm really lazy when it comes to life. I really am. It's surprising I've gotten where I am.
I know the feeling.
And
very well.
But what I am pretty stubborn. And I like to do things to a point where at least I've satisfied myself that I can do something. But I like meat. I love meat. Vegetables for me were a garnish for most of my life. I love the taste of meat. I would love if meat was life prolonging. I'd be the happiest guy. But I've now learned, that vegetable, at least plant focused, you can eat some meat and fish preferably. It's not going to hurt you. But a carnivorous, mainly carnivorous diet, there's really no evidence that in the long run that's healthy, unfortunately. So I've switched, and I'm very happy with it. I do enjoy a mostly plant-based diet now. Exercise, I freaking hate exercise. I'm Joe Average or worse. I do not like the feeling of being out of breath at all. I like lifting weights because at least I don't lose my breath, but I'm lazy. I have to force myself to go to the gym every day when I do it, which isn't every day, by the way. So if I can do it, anybody should be able to do this. It's just a matter of willpower and getting into the habit of doing that and letting your body adjust.
No doubt.